Welcome. I'm thinking about naming this video series. I've thought about calling them Civil Talk because I don't like divisiveness. In 2014, I wrote a book called Civility and the Common Good. It was an ebook, short, but I made a lot of points about the necessity for a society to be able to talk freely, and I think we've missed that today. We had that back in 2014, years before and years after. It wasn't always real easy, but we could talk on Facebook and everybody could give their opinion and be respected. Somewhere we lost that, and we should try to get that back. I understand why people don't want to enter a political conversation because it's so divisive. And who wants to go through that? You already know what you think. Why bother arguing with the other person? I get that. But when they can run us off the field, then that gives them the victory. So the people who yell and scream got their way, and so we're just stuck. So we have to find our way back into the conversation. And one thing we need to do is we need to require civility. So you'll always find my videos, I hope, to be civil and pleasant to listen to, informative, and I believe you'll learn something you didn't know. I hope that's the case. Today I'm going to explain why I have decided on a particular political party to run in if I run in this special election. We have to be sure before we get too far ahead. We don't know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to resign until she does. But if she does, it leaves an open seat. And I think that is a unique opportunity for me to win. I'm not in here to say I ran for office once. I have a plan and a strategy to win based on that special election. So if it happens, I'm pretty much committed to running that, and we'll be announcing the filing of paperwork, in the next several days would be my expectation. Now, I will say I'm a little bit like Thomas Jefferson. I don't like political parties. I think they were a bad idea. I'm not sure that they are helping our country. They certainly control our political process, but I've been in both political parties. I find good things about each one of them. However, the Republican Party that I was in no longer exists. And, I feel for the people that were in that party because they were generally very nice people and thoughtful, kind spoken, but, they were business people and conservatives and believed in limited government, all honorable and necessary things. We need that balance. You can't have a country without balance, be it either Republican, Democrat, liberal, or conservative, because eventually, it goes too far. So we need to have a conversation, and we can't have that if people are afraid to speak out. When I was young, the Republicans were a very small party. They were the party, as we said, of business. The Democratic Party, you had just about everybody else in it. They were the big tent party, workers and consumers. Unions used to be a thing. They were in the Democratic Party. And like Will Rogers said, I'm not a member of an organized party. I'm a Democrat. And that's pretty much everybody understood that because one Democrat said one thing didn't mean the whole party meant that. And I believe we need to keep that in mind as we go along. Over the years, with a thing that people who study politics call the Southern strategy, the Republicans stole away some of those blue-collar Democrats, and now they're over in the Republican Party. And that worked out real well for the Republicans in the Reagan era and the Bush era. But what they didn't count on was that those people taking over. And, when Donald Trump came into office, he virtually took over that party and made it his own. I don't think it's the principles of the grand old party anymore. I think it's basically whatever Donald Trump wants it to be. And so, I have a little bit of a problem with someone who is in all respect. And I don't think you'll disagree that he does try to intimidate people. If you look at the president of Ukraine was sitting in his office and Donald Trump was jabbing at him. I was very embarrassed as an American to see that. It was very disrespectful to jab at the leader of another country, and particularly one that's supposed to be our ally. He can be abrupt and abrasive. We know that he calls people names, including, someone who's worked their way up to the Speaker of a House, someone who is a grandmother. And while, I didn't agree with the young lady, Mrs. Pelosi, on a lot of things, I didn't like that her close relationship to the stock exchange, but I mean, it's her husband. I mean, it's what can you do? Her husband was head of the stock exchange. And so, that closeness with, getting inside information, how do you know? And how do you know that because their wealth increases, you don't know if it's because, well, her husband's in that line of business, or it's because she has, inside information. I can't say, and I don't want to get into all that, but I do say that was a problem for me, but I would have never thought to call her names because of that. We do know that Donald Trump embellishes. He fabricates. He's not one to even convey very many facts. And sometimes when he does convey facts, he conveys them incorrectly, clearly misjudging. One time in the last 10 days, he misjudged, he called something World War II, repeatedly indicating that, that occurred in 1919. Of course, it was World War I. But, I get nervous in front of a camera, and maybe that's something he messed up on. But he said the prescription prices, he wanted to bring them down 600%, 800%. Well, obviously, you can't bring prescription prices down more than 100% unless you're going to be paying, the customer. So there are things like that are somewhat bothersome. But anyway, he does seem to have a falling out with a lot of his friends and a lot of the people in his first administration. They say terrible things about him and about his ability to govern. The most, and this is why we're here today, is because one of his most ardent supporters was Marjorie Taylor Greene. And because she began to differ with him on one or two things, he accused her of being a traitor. Well, I mean, I don't have to defend myself with anyone about Marjorie Taylor Greene, because at one point I was so unhappy with her, I had a Facebook group called Anybody But Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I thought she was a little too abrasive. And, when she said she was sorry, I took her at her word, and I changed the name of that site, because, we want to forgive people and go on. We don't want to hold grudges. We want to win. When she says, I want to be more civil, then let's encourage that, right? So, but you see how the president treated her, and now, she's yet just another person who's been, turned against the person that Donald Trump. So that's not to say that the Democratic Party is perfect either. I'm totally against some of the policies of Joe Biden in his policy toward the Middle East. I think that the Joe Biden administration, and I don't know if he was, I agree with some other people that maybe he wasn't cognizant enough to realize that the world had changed, and you can't just let Israel and the people who influence us on the behalf of Israel do whatever they want. They went crazy, in my opinion, and went way too far. And, there's probably going to be a reckoning. There should be, because under the Biden administration, hundreds of thousands of people were killed with U.S.-made munitions. We know at least 15,000 children died, and that happens in the world, but it hasn't happened because of U.S. support and with U.S.-made munitions that the taxpayer paid for, and so that makes a difference. And that alone turned me against the Biden administration. There's also $100 billion worth of destruction over there, someone's going to have to pay for that. We'll talk about Israel. It's so complicated. We'll have to talk about that in a future video. There are other criticisms that, the Biden administration just seemed to ignore the problem at the southern border. If they didn't think there was a problem, they should have said so and made the case for it. But to listen to Fox News complain and get their people all stirred up, for year after year after year, did not come back with a policy or at least, an answer to the allegations, I think that was irresponsible. And so that brought you Donald Trump. We know that in the district that I will be running in, if I run for this congressional seat, that the demographics have changed all over the South, where Southerners have abandoned the Democratic Party for the Republican Party. And, there is a good reason for that. If you go to the Democratic website, they have a position on every issue, and they seem to enunciate them pretty much equally, which means if you're for, in an old saying, if you're for everything, you're for nothing. The party needs to find 5 or 6 issues that they support, and find things that we're talking about. Will Rogers, he used to have an expression. The Democratic Party was for the little man, and today we would say ordinary citizen or rank and file. But, this has been a number of years ago, and that's what the Democratic Party needs to make sure that people understand, that they are for the mainstream of the rank and file citizens. And in my area, they do not have that feeling today, because I go places, I talk to people, and I can assure you the feedback I get is, well, Democrats are only for welfare. Democrats are for, if I can get this right, for letting school children have sex changes without their parents' knowledge. I don't go to a town or to any gathering where I don't hear that at least once. And, I don't know exactly what that's about. I believe in, I'm not, Mark Twain used to talk about school boards. Well, this seemed to me more like a school board issue, not a congressional issue. But I'm giving you the example of how the Democrats don't have, image that they're projecting that affects all the working class. And so that's what we need to get back to. And I have that. I have several policies that I'll list below that you can look at, that I'm trying to bring people together. Some things, should attract conservatives and Republicans. Some would attract people in the middle, and some, more progressive. And so, we were trying to bring Republicans and Democrats together to move, the working class forward, to move the middle class forward. And that's what I'm trying to do. And in this congressional race, that's all I'll be doing. You can go to my latest book, which I recommend for everybody who wants to be in politics for the long haul. It's called The Handbook for Political and Cultural Change by Jim Davis. And I mention that because, it has these items in it, but it also has many other things, for now and for the future. But what I'm trying to promote in this campaign, and what I would talk to people when I go to Congress and talk to the people in the district about, are things that would affect working people and the rank and file now. Number one on the list, if I had to name one, would probably be my program that I call Complete Health Care at Less Cost. And, we'll talk about that in full, maybe even on my next video, but basically don't get too worried. It's not something that, would be forced on you. If you don't want insurance, you don't have to have it. If you want the insurance you have now, you can keep it. But if you want a better health care plan, the government's going to offer you one, So everybody should be happy. Now, that is, some of the overview of the things I have thought about. I decided that I'm going to run. And I can't, FEC doesn't let me say I'm going to run. I have to say that if I run, because, this seat's not even open yet. But, if it were open and I were to run, I would run as a Democrat. And that comes as a disappointment to some of my very Republican friends. But, if you read my books over the last 10 years, you'd see that, I fit better in a rank and file party. And I think that we could build a rank and file party better in the Democratic Party, and ask people to come back over to the Democratic Party and join with the people who are already there than to try to build one out of the Republican Party, where Donald Trump seems to have total control at this moment. So that is my decision. We've already kind of gone in that direction, and I have all the respect in the world for people that are for small government and have been in the Republican Party and, have always presented themselves well and thought they were doing the right thing for the country. And we do need that. We do need people on both sides. But I just watched a thing on the news today where Donald Trump was saying something pretty rough, and I thought, I can't be in a party when someone is, that rude and callous and unthinking. And we're off in Venezuela, and even experts can't tell you why we're there. It can't be about drugs, really. It can't be about oil or gold, because the president of that country said he would give the United States the oil. He would give them the gold. He just wants to leave office on his own terms. He doesn't want to be seen to be forced out. He wants to save face. And for some reason, Donald Trump doesn't want him to do that. If I had to guess, based on my experience and, what knowledge I've been able to collect, it'd be my opinion that Donald Trump is trying to pick on somebody he knows he can, run over, because he can't, have his way in Ukraine, where Russia is more formidable, and he doesn't want to get into that. I think he's a little weak toward Russia, and so he's taking out his frustrations over in Venezuela and maybe trying to show his supporters, well, I'm a tough military guy, but where he needs to be tough is over in Ukraine, where people are dying on both sides. If you care anything about Russian people, and I do, if you care anything about Ukrainian people, which of course we do, that we want that to come to an end. And when we vacillate and when we're inconsistent, that just encourages Vladimir Putin to not give in and not to negotiate and not to work a deal. And so, that would go on for years the way it's going now. So that would be all I can talk about on that topic right now. I would like to say, if I have it, is that I do have a strategy for victory. It's based on having this special election. I wouldn't be wasting my time otherwise, and I ask you to join me if you'd like. You'll find it entertaining and helpful and, a good thing to do, for your country. I think I've got the right approach. And if you didn't mind, I'd like for you to like and subscribe to these videos and share them, because if you don't, the people who are just like us, been sitting on the couch and letting these other people get their way, we've got to get back into this conversation and get back into this fight, really, and to get the kind of country that we want. Thank you again, and I'll be back very soon to talk more on the issues.